David Livingstone had love for people. So for me, I don't see any way in his writings where he said something against other people. So we must follow that way of living. If we live in peace, then we have peace in the whole world.
The legends of the Yeyi have never been written down, but they are so alive that everybody knows about Livingstone.
Very soon Livingstone became more explorer than missionary. The museum which my friend and partner Linus Makwata built for Livingstone, for the missionaries that came after him.
This is the scenery and sounds of Livingstone Camp close to Sangwali, where the renovated David Livingstone Museum opened its doors for tourists, visitors and local residents alike during October 2016. A museum built by the Yeyi, Linus Makwata, in memory of the man who brought them the gospel not only of Christianity, but the gospel of freedom from slavery, from bigger and stronger tribes from other regions. Makwata, a teacher by profession, decided to embark on the project after his father told the story of Dr. David Livingstone.
Yeah, my view and the understanding of the people in the area, what is important is history. It's not about a white man or a black man. It's about history. If you did something good for me, I need to remember you as a white man. If somebody did for me something, as long as it is a black man or is a colored, I must remember what he contributed into my life. So I decided to establish this museum to remember the missionaries who came here, to remember David Livingstone, the liberator of African people. For me, that is what is important. The most important part here is the liberator of the African people. I'm sorry to mention this, but during those years it was too difficult for a black man to share a table with a white man. That is my understanding. So for me, my understanding is whether you are a black man or whether you are a white man, we were created in the image of God. So we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters. Whether you are coming from America, whether you are coming from London, whether you are coming from Africa, we are one people. The things that we are going to keep in the museum will attract visitors to come and see what is in the museum. The food that my people used to eat, the Yeyi, and including other tribes in the region or throughout Namibia. So my understanding is once we keep this information into the museum, the traditional food that you used to eat, the traditional medicine that our forefathers used to use when they got sick. So that is what I think will attract more visitors to this museum. To me, the value of this museum is one day I will not be there. Some of our grandparents are no more here. Some of our parents are dying one by one. And if we don't keep the photographs of our parents, if we don't keep the history of our parents, if we don't keep areas where they used to do farming and all that, we will get lost. Once we keep this information in the museum, those who come behind us after 50 years or after 100 years, they will know who was Francois, who was Linus Makwata, who was Dominic and all that. So if that history is there after 100 years, those who are coming behind us, they will know there was Francois in this community, there was Linus Makwata in this community, there was Vaidi in this community.
During your research about David Livingstone, what about David Livingstone impacted your life that you will say, wow, I want to keep this, I want to grow up like this, I want to teach like this? What of David Livingstone did you take in your heart?
I think what I took into my heart, or what I have into my heart, David Livingstone had love for people. That is my understanding. You find that even when you read his books, most of the times he was referring to the Bible. Most of the time he was referring to God. So for me, I don't see any way in his writings where he said something against other people. He was trying to give advices, creating peace, so we must follow that way of living. If we live in peace, then we have peace in the whole world.
I also understand that David Livingstone spoke something like 14 African languages. And apparently his take is, I can only speak peace with you if I understand your language. If you can advise the youngsters, the generation coming up now towards the Francois and the Linus age, what advice will you give the youngsters?
No, for me, you see, there is a saying, when you are in Rome, you must do like the way Romans are doing things. When you visit a community, you cannot just come into the community and tell them, okay, this is what I want. Learn how they live, learn what they eat, then how they associate with communities, with other people. For me, that is the most important thing. As you said, to be able to communicate with somebody, you need to learn his language. I must teach you my language so that we must be able to communicate. During those years, there were no schools. So there was no other way David Livingstone could have done unless to integrate himself into these communities where he passed.
The remarkable facet in this story is that during his father's time, there were no libraries, archives, not to speak of today's modern internet facilities, yet the story remained authentic from generation to generation as far back as the 1850s.
I think there is no difference between the Africans and the Western people. What is important is the knowledge that you get from the elders. You see, long ago we were taught about plowing next to the river before the rain season. We were taught about medicinal trees, but these days that idea is no more working, because when you are given something, a root by your elder or by your grandfather, you think, oh, my grandfather is a witch. It's not a witch. It's not a witch. It's giving you the medicine that can help you to cure the disease. There are a lot of medicinal plants in our villages, but because now what is happening, the elders are fearing that if I tell my kids about these traditional medicines, the roots that we use to use when you are sick, they will say, okay, I'm a witch. It's not witchcraft.
The legends of the Yeyi have never been written down, but they are so alive that everybody knows about Livingstone. Look at the museum, by example. It was built by Linus Mokwata, who is a Yeyi. It might be the only and maybe also the smallest museum who has ever been built from a black man for a white man. That means there was never a difference. That's how we feel it. That we see the person and we see the brother. And the Yeyi were telling that story, and the museum preserves the story of Livingstone, of the Yeyi and the Mokololo, and the missionaries.
Sangwali is situated in Namibia's most northeastern region, formerly known as the Caprivi, bordering Zambia in the north, Botswana in the south, and even a tip of Zimbabwe to the east. Apart from the renovated museum by means of funding and advice from both the European Union, the Namibia Scientific Society, and construction done by Nexus, a Namibian construction group, the place is now home to many artifacts telling the story of Livingstone.
We are very happy that we can work with Yeyi people and with people of Zambezi. We are not only sitting in Windhoek. We do support Nai San Conservancy. We wish to work with Himbas. We wish to work with Yeyi people. We have a project supporting Nama people. So we are here for all different peoples of Namibia.
The area is rich in pre-century history, like the unmarked graves of missionaries and their families being poisoned during the reign of King Sekiletu.
Hafita Dr. Livingstone, Hafita Vamukomoka Malozi,
Another place of historical value is the ancient baobab tree, where Livingstone stayed for 2 days. This majestic tree at Malenga recently drew a lot of attention after Livingstone's name was found engraved on it by travel book author Connie von Schmettau. Although barely recognizable after 165 years as nature took its toll and needed a trained eye to recognize the engraving.
When he arrived here, David Livingstone, his aim was to come and teach people how to read, how to write, and the words of God.
And the Yeyi knew that David Livingstone has been there for his first visit with Zebedwana, the king of the Yeyi, of the Makololo, sorry. So some guy said, when I was a young boy, I saw still the engraving, it was there in the tree. And we looked for it everywhere, but we couldn't find it. So this year I took time, I said, even if I stay for weeks, I will find the signature. Going there again, I was climbing into the baobab, everybody was calling, Connie, are you all right? I said, yeah, I'm fine, I'm just shaking, it must be somewhere. So then I found it. And that was a really moment when I had the feeling David Livingstone wanted me to see it and to find it. And I discovered only the height must be different. Everybody was looking up there, but it couldn't be because that guy who was telling me said he was a young boy of about 10 years old. Then now he's about 50, about my age. And I said, wait a moment, he must be smaller, so his arms would only reach to that point, adding about 40 years, and I said, T.O. And then I knew, I had the feeling that is the right way, and that is the signature which has been lost all the years. Not even the king of the Yeyi knew where it was. So it was very important for me to see if it's really there, the signature. I wouldn't doubt because they were telling, but I really wanted to see it. And when it has been seen 40 years ago, then it must be still somewhere. And this fantastic thing is finding the year 1851 in that signature in the tree, like David Livingstone, a sign with a cross in 1851, and it has grown in somehow in the baobab, but still you can really see it. And I hate to go and find it, because now we have even like a proof that the legends of the Yeyi are 100% conform with the other stories, like the truth behind the legend, the biography of David Livingstone. Imagine that, people who had no writing in this time, that they were telling the stories and they knew exactly what happened and they knew it's there.
The area offers more than rural villages, game and game parks. It also offers inner peace to any soul in need of a breakaway. Livingstone Camp, situated barely 10 minutes from the former Mamili National Park, now Nkasa Rupara National Park, offers any tourist a guaranteed lifetime experience. Adol Weitlich, in his late 60s, and Linus Mukwata's roads crossed after the hobby historian fascinated by the life and the adventures of Livingstone, and by default crossroads with Mukwata at Sangwali. Mukwata by then built a small museum in memory of the great adventurer who set foot at Sangwali around mid-1850s. This friendship led to more than a common interest of preserving the history. The German bade farewell to the city lights of South Africa and settled himself at a place roaming with elephants, buffaloes, lions, and occasionally a leopard or two. Sangwali is a place where the African morning sun greets you with a choir of more than 490 bird species. And then again, with the roar of a lion in the far distance, announce the end of the day, with a huge fiery orange ball, turning the trees in its path into mystic black silhouettes, before disappearing behind the faraway horizon. This place in Namibia is an absolute jewel in the whole of the southern African region. It was virtually inaccessible until the government built some bridges.
It was totally, or virtually totally inaccessible until the government, the MET, government built the last bridge, which was finished in 2012. Before, it was extremely difficult to get in here. There were some bridges, wooden bridges, that you could cross, but they were not easy to cross.
Indeed, a formidable combination this two. Adolf with his engineering background and Mokwata's Yeyi tribesmanship, the efforts was easy and soon bridges, a vegetable garden and a tourist camp was born out of their dreams. The title Induna, a local word meaning person of authority, was bestowed on whom by Vice King Iglesias Mufulali of the Yeyi Traditional Authority as recent as October 2016. During an interview sitting with his back against the setting sun, this tall grey-bearded man is a picture of passion for what he stands for and he believes in, the preservation of history and nature alike. Spending several cross-African trips with modern-day adventurer, humanitarian and author Kingsley Holgate, he can speak with authority about Africa's natural beauty. The lines on his face reminded me of all the tweespoor paadjies, trails we traveled to get to the elephants, the hippos, buffaloes and other big game in the camera's eye.
You know, so what you will find in the park, Francois, is that there's no signs. The roads do not correlate what you find on the map. Even your GPS, if you haven't got an updated GPS, they're not there. They're wrong. No? So this is for the man who's looking for an adventure, who wants to escape, who wants to, when he goes out and does some viewing of, game viewing or just experience in the park, he will find it very interesting, right? He's going to encounter sand, he's going to encounter maybe some floodplains. We have the big four here, which is elephant, buffalo, lion and leopard. So they roam. We do not have rhinos. Don't expect to see cheetahs because there aren't any. Yes. But everything else is here. We have Namibia's highest bird concentration, some 490 different species. So for the bird lover, it's an absolute paradise.
The two gurus' knowledge of the environment and animals found here is like a walking encyclopedia. Their knowledge never ceased to amaze any visitor to Livingstone Camp or Nkasa-Rupara National Park with its variety of animals. But be aware, when in their presence, they will bring their sightseeing vehicle to a sudden stop without any warning and give you a short lesson about the tree, birds in the areas, waterholes and the aquatic residents. But it is not also the lesson about the fauna and flora. The DEW will also share what to do when coming face to face with a wild animal.
Well, generally speaking, you are safe in a campsite because you've got a fire going, and but you will get elephant in camp. It happens every couple of weeks. The elephants come into camp, but they're very peaceful. They will walk around you, provided you don't provoke them. You're gonna be fine. We have hippos coming into the camp sometimes. That can be a dangerous thing. So no walking at night. No walking between camps at night. That you better, don't do. So we have baboons, quite a large group of baboons that sort of roam in the area. They can be troublesome if you leave food outside, but if you pack your food away, everything is okay. Hyenas, we don't have many hyenas, so they're not a problem at all. Lions, we do get in camp, but again, they will come in, and generally they keep very quiet. Once they enter the camp area, they keep quiet, and they move on because they realize there is human activity, and they move on.
This advice I will always keep at heart, that it is to stay calm and not to run and make sudden moves, especially predators like lions and leopards might see you as prey and become their dinner. But that is easier than said. The only animal Veilig warned us about is a hippo on land. As long as they are in the water, it is pretty safe, but once out of water, especially after dark when they go to graze, then it is not so pretty safe anymore. But again, wild animals are unpredictable and should be treated with such respect at all times. Bird lovers can be guaranteed to have a roaring time, as hundreds of different species can be found here. Getting there is much easier, as roads are tarred from Windhoek all the way to Sangwali, but from here one needs an off-road vehicle to go further, as the road is sandy at some places, hence the need for all-wheel drive vehicles.
This area is unique, so combining history with this wonderful wildlife park is just, it's a jewel. And it belongs to Namibia, no? You have a taro that almost gets right to us here, but you do need a 4x4. Don't come with a two-wheel drive. You will not get anywhere.
But when is the best time to visit? This is one of the many frequent asked questions. One can only say, depends what you want to see, although the dry season is recommendable as some parts are more accessible by vehicle. Anyone with a love for traditional groups and dances can also be arranged through the offices of the Yeyi traditional authorities. This area is a diverse spot of cultures. Widely emphasized the high standard of the camping sites, with ablution facilities befitting a world-class visitor, without taking away anything from nature. To keep the area clean and pollution-free, power is generated by solar panels. Planning to travel there is worth the while, and due to the extreme heat during the summer period, it is advisable to carry enough water to prevent dehydration. The area is also prone to malaria, and even here it is advisable to consult your medical practitioner before entering most of the northern regions of Namibia. As the sun disappeared behind the now pitch black trees on the horizon and the lonely elephant bull is announcing the end of the day, it is time to shake hands with Arulf and Linus, as they are no strangers anymore, but family, and leave back to your camp where a fire awaits you to prepare your meal before retiring to your tent for a well-deserved rest. It is a mystery endemic to this area of what tomorrow will bring. Only when you unzip your tent in the morning and be welcomed by a cacophony of birds up in the ancient trees, you will follow your heart to the next adventure.